Sometimes it seems to me that the most difficult thing in human life is not to survive hardships, not to achieve success, and not even to understand oneself, but simply to allow oneself to live. We are accustomed to thinking that life must be a struggle, a project, a path with a specific goal, and if there is no goal, then it feels as if there is no meaning. But perhaps life itself is the meaning. Perhaps all that is needed is not to create endless plans and schemes, not to analyze or correct every detail, but simply to be present, simply to breathe. For a long time, I could not understand why it is so hard to just exist, why it seems that if you do not accomplish something great, the day is wasted. Inside us lives the habit of evaluating every moment according to its utility. It is as if we have built into ourselves an inner observer, recording reports on how efficiently we spent our time, what we achieved, how we appear to others. And we do not allow ourselves simply to be without judgment. But this is exactly the root of fatigue. When every second becomes a task, life ceases to be a flow, it turns into a marathon with no finish line, where even victory brings no joy because the next goal is already looming ahead. I believe that most people do not live. They survive, strive, struggle, run, attempting to justify their existence, proving that they are worthy of love, recognition, and security. But life does not require proof. It does not set conditions or establish standards. It simply exists, and all it asks is that we allow ourselves to be part of it. Yet, instead of simply being, we are constantly trying to control. We fear that if we let go even a little, everything will fall apart. We feel as though the world depends on our composure, and if we allow ourselves to relax, it will inevitably collapse. Control creates the illusion of security, but that security is cold and fragile. True resilience appears not when you control everything, but when you begin to trust life, people, the process, even the unknown. Yes, the unknown is frightening, but it is precisely within it that movement is born. All living things develop from uncertainty. A seed does not know exactly how it will sprout. A river does not know where its current will turn. A person does not know where their path will lead. Yet all of this lives, moves, and breathes because it requires no guarantees. Learning to simply live means learning to let go, not only the past or people, but the constant need to be someone. To let go of your expectations, your frozen images, your ideas of how life should be. We often live not with reality, but with our idea of it, constantly trying to fit the present into this idea. From this arises an inner tension, subtle yet persistent, like a quiet hum that does not cease even in moments of calm. When we stop forcing, when we allow the day to be as it is, space appears. In that space, we can breathe. We can hear ourselves. Sometimes, to simply live, we need to learn to feel again. Not to analyze or evaluate, but to feel how the air moves, how the morning sounds, how time flows. We are so accustomed to rushing that we no longer notice that true depth lies in simple things. Joy does not need to be loud. It can be in silence, in a cup of coffee, in a glance, in the simple fact that the day exists and we are present within it. But to feel this, we must stop. We fear stopping because we associate stillness with emptiness. It seems that if nothing happens, life is passing us by. But it is quite the opposite. It is precisely in stillness that life passes through us. We begin to hear it when we stop drowning out its sound with work, thoughts, and worries. This is not a rejection of activity. It is a return to the natural rhythm. All living things move in waves, tide and ebb, inhale and exhale, day and night. We try to live in a state of perpetual tide, not realizing that joy dies in such unending motion. To live simply does not mean to live without pain. It means not running from it. We often think that happiness is the absence of suffering, but perhaps happiness is simply the ability to experience everything life brings without closing the heart. Because when you close yourself off to pain, you close yourself off to joy as well. True fullness comes when you accept everything, light and shadow alike. When you stop dividing days into good and bad, and instead begin to see in each one movement, development, the breath of life. To simply live, one must learn to be with oneself even when it is difficult. To listen not only to plans and goals, but to one's own states. Sometimes nothing brings joy, and this does not mean something is wrong with you. It is simply a period of inner winter, when life pauses in order to bloom again. There is no need to rush spring. It always arrives on time. When I began to allow myself not to know, not to understand, not to keep up, the world suddenly stopped feeling hostile. I realized that in uncertainty, it is possible to live without losing oneself. I realized that anxiety dissipates when you stop fighting it. I realized that life becomes deeper when you stop searching for meaning alone. Because meaning is not about explaining everything, it is about living everything. To live simply is not weakness, nor a renunciation of ambition. It is maturity. It is the understanding that you can move forward without destroying yourself. You can dream without forgetting to breathe. You can build without losing touch with the moment. Everything we seek is already here, inside. We have simply been too busy trying to be enough, successful, correct, and have forgotten to be alive. And perhaps this is the essence of the art of living, not to conquer the world, but to stop fighting it. Not to run all the time, but to stop and allow yourself to hear how time flows. Not to become someone, but to remember who you are. Life does not demand feats from us. It waits for us to stop complicating it. To begin to trust, breathe, look, and listen. To learn not only to exist but to be. Simply to be. Not for a goal, not for meaning, but because mere presence is already valuable. And at some point, you suddenly realize, you do not need to search for what will change your life. Because life is already here. It is not tomorrow, not after vacations, not after success. It is here, in your breath, in your heart, in the morning light streaming through the window. It does not wait for you to become perfect to begin. It is already moving, gently and persistently inviting you to simply walk with it. And perhaps it is precisely when you stop chasing, stop demanding, stop explaining everything, that what you have long sought arrives: lightness. That quiet, almost imperceptible joy that needs no reasons. It simply exists. And this, indeed, is life. The real, simple, authentic life, without fireworks, without labels, without loud promises. The one without a spectacle, but with breath. And when you feel this, nothing more is needed.